FPV has always felt like it revolved around one thing, the 5-inch Freestyle quad. For years, that was the center of everything. Most content, most product development, most innovation, it all pointed back to Freestyle. And to be fair, that didn't happen by accident. Freestyle pilots drove visibility. They sold products. They built the culture. But the landscape is changing. What we're seeing now isn't companies abandoning FPV. It's them expanding beyond it. There are entire areas of the hobby, long-range fixed-wing, sub-250 builds, ground vehicles, even industrial applications, that were historically underdeveloped, at least in terms of commercial support. And now, those areas are getting attention. You can see it in newer systems like Walk Snail's Ascent ecosystem, which leans heavily into long-range, modular setups, and even tripod-mounted receivers, something that makes perfect sense for ground stations, but looks completely out of place if you're thinking purely in freestyle terms. And that's where the friction starts. Because if you're a freestyle pilot, a lot of this new gear doesn't feel like it's for you anymore. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It just means it's not designed for your use case. At the same time, companies aren't making these moves randomly. Freestyle FPV, as exciting as it is a relatively mature space now. There are only so many gains you can make in latency, image quality, and weight before you start hitting diminishing returns. Compare that to emerging areas. Long-range and inspection flying benefit from higher power, better penetration, and more flexible systems. Sub-250 builds are becoming more important, not just because of convenience, but because of regulations. In many regions, staying under 250 grams removes a lot of legal barriers. And then there's the industrial side, inspection, surveying, thermal imaging, where the expectations are completely different, and the budgets often are too. So from a company's perspective, it makes sense to explore those directions. But that creates a kind of identity problem, because a lot of this new hardware still looks like FPV gear, is marketed through FPV channels, and gets reviewed by FPV creators, even when it's clearly designed for something else. So you end up with situations where a product built for long-range or ground station use gets judged as if it's meant for freestyle. And of course it falls short in that context. And that's where some of the frustration we're seeing comes from. Part of it is expectation. Part of it is communication. And part of it is just the natural growing pains of a hobby that's evolving. There is some entitlement in the space, people expecting every new product to serve their specific niche. But there's also valid criticism. When companies promise upgrade paths that don't materialize or blur the lines between different use cases, it's reasonable for people to question it. Ultimately, though, this shift was probably inevitable. FPV isn't shrinking. It's diversifying. Freestyle isn't going away, but it's no longer the only priority, and for some pilots that feels like being left behind. But for others, especially those who've been operating in the margins of the hobby, it's the first time they're actually being catered for. So maybe the real takeaway is this. It's not that FPV is being neglected, it's just that the center of gravity is moving,